by a COVID task force, which is made up of educators from all across the state of Michigan. The roadmap is divided into 4 sections, and the 4 sections are divided into phases. And so phase 1 through 3, phase 4, phase 5, and phase 6. We're going to spend a lot of time on phase 4 today. It doesn't mean that phase 1 through 3 are not important, or phase 5, but once you know what phase 4 is like, you'll understand what phase 5 will look like and what phase 6 will look like as well. Each of the phases of the roadmap address 4 major categories, and the most extensive one are the safety protocols and the instruction, what will school look like. And then obviously there's the mental and social emotional well-being of students and staff and how we're taking care of that. And operations, meaning what do we need to order behind the scenes to make sure that we're able to follow all the safety protocols and provide the best instruction possible for our students. So this is the meetings and I guess the things that we did in order for us to create this plan. The purpose of this slide, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, is to let you know that this was a very much collaborative process. What that means is it wasn't created in a vacuum with just Pinckney Community School staff, principals. It was really a community effort. We sent out lots of surveys. We had meetings with our families, students. We sent lots of surveys to our staff. We did a collaborative effort to make sure that every staff member in the district had an opportunity to join the planning sessions. And so we feel really proud of this endeavor because it really was a community effort. So here are the major phases within the plan. I'm going to start with phase 6 and why you don't notice it here. The reason why you don't notice phase 6 is because phase 6 is going back to, I'm not sure if we'll ever go back to normal the way that we're used to before the closure in March, but it's as close to what our kids have experienced before COVID-19 hit, which was, when we closed in March. So phase 6 is really where we're really just going back to our normal protocols, normal procedures with our students. Phase 1 through 3, I'm going to skip over to the left side of the screen. Phase 1 through 3 is what you've experienced in the spring. If our governor makes that decision, if our state moves to phase 3, or our region moves to phase 3, what that means is we are not allowed to have in-school instruction at all. We can only have remote instruction, which means students are staying home and they're learning virtually. Based on the feedback that we collected from our spring plan, which please remember that schools were asked when we closed, to basically go from a brick and mortar instruction type setting to 100% online, and we had 3 weeks to flip that model around. It's a pretty difficult task, and our teachers worked extra hard. Our principals, our entire staffs worked extremely hard to make sure that we provide the best possible instruction that we can, but that was an emergency plan. What that means is that it was not planned for. Districts had 3 weeks to train everybody, to share out the plan, what they're going to do, what it's going to look like, and that was an endeavor in itself. And so our phase 1 through 3, if we have an emergency remote plan that's activated this fall, is a lot more robust. What that means is we're going to be assessing our students. We're going to be grading our students' work. The students are required to complete the coursework. We're going to be taking attendance. The students are going to have 5 days of remote learning. There's going to be schedules that are put out of this is what you'll do on Monday, this is what you'll do on Tuesday, and so forth. We're going to offer synchronous and asynchronous instruction. If you're not familiar with synchronous, that means that it's real-time instruction, just like we're having a meeting right now. This is called synchronous learning, meaning we're all logged in at the same time. Asynchronous instruction is quite the opposite. It's once some of the people that are not able to join us today, if they can watch this recording on their own time when it's most convenient for them, and that's called asynchronous instruction. And so phase 1 through 3 will be very different than what you've experienced in the spring. And I just want to make sure that that is something that everyone is aware of. I know the spring wasn't perfect. Your feedback was very important to us, and we looked at all of those responses and used that exact feedback to create our emergency remote plan should we close for a period of time this school year. You also can tell that the food distribution is enacted during that time, and that we will still we will still be able to offer Pinckney Virtual Academy. And speaking of Pinckney Virtual Academy, what I want to say is that if you will notice, Pinckney Virtual Academy is offered in phase 1 through 3, phase 4, phase 5, and phase 6. I just don't have phase 6 on here. So we are offering our Pinckney Virtual Academy, we're calling it PVA for short, for the entire 2021 school year, no matter which phase we are in. And we'll talk about what that looks like towards the end of the presentation. So let me skip over to phase 4. Phase 4 is in-school instruction with strict safety and social distancing protocols. So this is what we're in right now. We are in phase 4 as a state, and we are able to open only if we follow the safety protocols that have been outlined in the Return to Learn framework that was provided by the task force from the governor. So the big highlights of this phase, although I'm going to go into a lot more detail for you in today's presentation, is all of our K-12 students and staff are required to wear facial coverings all day long in the classrooms. We are going to follow strict social distancing guidelines as much as we can. I already talked about Pinckney Virtual Academy being offered. Our phase 4 plan is currently 4 days of face-to-face learning, and that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Fridays being our 1-day remote learning. And so we'll talk about why that is. Also, when we get into phase 4, we are going to offer synchronous, meaning face-to-face instruction, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and obviously asynchronous instruction on, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then asynchronous instruction on Fridays, meaning kids can complete the learning on their own time when it's most convenient for them and their families. Again, assessments, grading, completing coursework, attendance, it's all required, even on Fridays. And so I'm going to spend a lot of time on phase 4, so I just wanted to give you a highlight of how it differs from phase 1 through 3. And then phase 5, we can also offer in-school instruction, but with moderate safety protocols. So some of the safety protocols that are required in phase 4 are lessened to recommended. Again, we're still going to offer Pinckney Virtual Academy. We are going to offer now 5 days of face-to-face instruction, which means that all of our learning will be synchronous, meaning it's going to happen live at the same time because all of our kids are in school. And again, assessments, grading, completing coursework, and everything else will be required as far as attendance and all those pieces. I see lots of questions coming in, Michael. Are you doing okay?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for asking. Though this gives you a good chance to take a drink of water.
Okay, good.
There are a couple questions that I'm not sure I can answer, and Rick, you might want to jump in on that as well. Ginger asked about having a metals and welding class, which I think falls under the category of CTE, in which case that is available for that your student would be able to come and take that class face to face. CTE classes.
Quick response back to Ginger. And so,
okay.
For our CTE classes are we had a chance to talk about this last week, those are very specific classes. We actually share programs with the other 4 schools in the county, part of a consortium. And we have classes such as metals, robotics, autos, culinary arts, that's in Howell, our nursing program in Brighton. We have an aviation course in Howell, a firefighters course. So these classes are impossible to provide any type of relevant experience virtually. So the standard is that obviously students can continue doing what they've done in the past, is come to school physically and take those classes. Generally, our students have to travel to other districts, or they travel here. If they want a virtual experience, they can have the virtual experience, but they will have to make the decision to take those classes physically, which that's the request that I'm getting. Every request from parents has been they want their kids to take those classes physically, but then take the other remaining courses virtually. And we will do that. We just need to make sure we'll have to connect once we get the list of registrations, look at our high school kids, and then look at their schedules, and we'll be able to identify those kiddos who are signed up for those CTE classes. and then, take that in consideration. So we understand the struggles with that. And it's just, because once again, we cannot replicate those classes.
Okay. So I'm going to move on to phase 4 plan and go through all of the protocols that we have. So our safety protocols as far as face coverings, every K-12 students and staff must wear facial coverings on the bus, in the classrooms, and in all common areas. Every classroom will be equipped with disposable facial coverings, disinfectant, and cleaning supplies. Should students forget their facial coverings or staff forget their facial coverings, we are going to have disposable ones available. We obviously recommend for students and staff to bring their own, the ones that they're most comfortable with, because they'll be wearing them all day long. Today we had a training this afternoon with about 30 principals and secretaries throughout the district as a professional development for them, and we were all wearing masks. And I know that some people just felt more comfortable with their own masks from home that they wear on a regular basis because they're used to them. I know my kids will be wearing the gaiters, which are the ones that go around the neck. You just kind of pull them up because those are easy to put on and off. And my daughter's going into 3rd grade and my son's going into 2nd grade. So just sharing that with you.
And Basha, I'm just going to jump in just because there's a question relating to that as well. We had a parent just ask about kindergartners and just the ability for them to keep their masks on. And we understand, it's a young age. There's definitely, with all new behaviors and just kind of learning expectations, there's going to be a process. And, this is, for the foreseeable future, this is going to be part of how we live, how we've got to kind of manage ourselves in stores and churches and just whatever environments we're in. And we're using this as an opportunity to really, teach our students just about, what the purpose is and why we're wearing the masks, and also understanding that, there's going to be, instances where they're going to get fidgety and things of that sort. What we're asking, especially for our little guys, is really our teachers to think about building in breaks. We know that the expectation is not for, 5 to 7 hours of continuous wearing masks, but look at every opportunity to give periodic breaks to the kids. And so, we're gonna see how it goes, and I'm confident. I've been really impressed with all the students, whether they're here or out and about in the community when we've had to wear masks. And I've actually been more impressed sometimes from our students and our young people with masks than I have sometimes even with the adults around. So I'm confident that we can work through it, and it's a learning experience for all of us because we all kind of feel the same way. They're definitely not comfortable, but it is important for us to keep the environment safe. It is, I think, a large factor of us moving forward and be able to provide the in-person learning experience.
The students and staff who are unable to wear facial coverings due to medical reasons will need to submit a medical documentation form to their building principal. And so we are requiring a medical professional's note. And then the principal will then write a health or safety plan with the parents and guardians to be placed in the student's file. So we want to make sure that we document any health issues that a student is having, and that we will obviously need a medical note to submit that. Our safety protocols as far as hygiene, we are installing extra soap and sanitizing dispensers throughout every building in high traffic areas such as bathrooms and hallways. Our teachers are going to be scheduling hand washing that will be implemented across K-12 levels every 2 to 3 hours. Some of our classrooms are fortunate enough to have sinks right in the classrooms, and so students will be encouraged to wash their hands there. And then the students that do not have sinks in their classrooms will be on a rotating basis, but they are going to be going to the bathroom to wash their hands to make sure that they're clean. We are not going to be sharing materials at this time during phase 4 unless the materials are sanitized between use. So thinking about like equipment in a physical education class, if any equipment's used, those are going to be sanitized between every classroom that comes into the gymnasium. We are going to be sharing training videos on proper hand washing, hand sanitizing, and coughing. And I would gonna add on to that even how to wear a mask, a face mask appropriately. The other piece that we are going to talk about or do is we're going to refill all of our, how did I get there? We're going to refill all of our supplies, and cleanings of bathrooms will occur every hour in each building. And so we are prepared to do that. We had a big meeting today, and one of the things we talked about is how well stocked our school system is. Our Director of Operations, Jim Hayden, feels very confident that we will be able to secure all of these safety protocols to make sure that our staff and our students are safe in our schools.
And just really quick, just a quick question. Said hospitals struggling to get cleaning supplies, and I think that was a struggle early on during this this situation. Andrea, my wife actually works at a hospital, and for the past couple months, there hasn't been really an issue with getting PPE or the supplies they need. And once the expectation for us to have school was put forth, we have been, I'll be honest, we've bombarded by sales representatives, all kinds of people trying to get us what we need. Is actually overwhelming. And so the only issue that we had from the onset were gloves. Gloves were really kind of the concern. That was about 3 weeks ago, but now we think the supply chain is working its way through, and we don't see that same kind of issue. But sanitizers is not an issue. The cleaning sanitizers that we need to clean the schools on a nightly basis is not an issue. Masks, we have no problem getting masks. We've actually got more than enough face shields because we're providing face shields for every staff member. They don't have to wear it, but it's just an option if they want to add that in addition to their face mask. And so we haven't run into an issue. So I was kind of wondering and worried about that same thing, but right now we're looking to be in pretty good shape.
So we're going to move on to social distancing measures. And so just so you know that one of the parts of Phase 4 plan is that volunteers and special guests will not be permitted in our buildings during Phase 4. Obviously, if there's an emergency or you need to pick up your child, all visitors will be filling out a screening form at every front entrance. They will have to wash their hands, sanitize, and wear a disposable facial covering. We will have social distancing signage all throughout every building. It's going to be on walls. It's going to be on floors. I know that the principals have been working really hard with Jim Hayden to make sure that those are ordered and placed accordingly. Every building will have a screening station at the main entrance, and it's going to include a QR code for those of you who want to use your cell phones, and it's going to include a Chromebook. And so we are requiring that everyone does do a self-screening when they enter our building. And obviously it's going to include, next to that computer will be a hand sanitizing station and obviously a face mask as well. Classroom desks and tables will be spaced apart as far as possible. 6-foot distancing is not possible in all of our classrooms. That is why we're requiring all of our K-12 students to wear facial coverings all day, except for lunchtime, and we'll talk about lunch in just a moment. We want to make sure that if we can't socially distance, that everyone is still safe. And so in the classrooms, we're going to space the desks as far as we can, but we know that there are some classes where 6-foot distancing just will not be possible. And to limit exposure of students mixing with other students, we're really trying to cohort the kids together. So one of the things that we're going to do is our K-6 specials are going to be brought into the classrooms. This is for all of them except for physical education. And our 7-12 students will follow a block schedule. And so you can see some examples there. This is not set in stone that they're going to attend hours 1, 2, 3, 4 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and hours 1, 5, 6, 7 on Tuesdays, Thursdays. It's just for example, so you can have an idea of what students will be experiencing. We are going to be asking parents to screen their students at home prior to sending them to school. And a formal guideline was actually sent home today by Rick. It was in one of the many emails you received, I know. But there is a formal guideline that was sent, and we will also be sending those guidelines through your principals. And when you re-enroll your child, re-register, which is part of the yearly registration for the school year, it'll be part of that documentation as well.
So Basha, I hate to interrupt you, but there's a lot of questions, and between Rick and I, we're doing our best, but we're not able to keep up completely here. But unfortunately, not everything is completely related to what you're talking about. So I hate to interrupt you because you might address some of this later on. Okay. But it might be easier to kind of catch up on some of these questions by and if you want to jump in the chat and answer a few of these as well, that is certainly fine, because some of these I don't know that I'll be able to answer. So there was a question about what specials like band, orchestra, choir.
This is, yeah, this is great. This is right where
So
it's
if you
supposed
want
to
to
be.
jump in on that one first,
Sure. So
how would that look for a virtual student? That's the question.
okay, so if we're looking at orchestra or band, if it's a virtual student, so they are 100% virtual, and that means that they are learning from home, and we'll talk about what the schedule looks like. They will still join their orchestra or band class virtually. What that means is they're going to be playing their instrument at home. When it comes to students who are face-to-face, and we're talking about orchestra or band, our band instruments are not able to be played inside of a building. And so I know that the band director and the band teachers are thinking about alternate plans, such as if it's still warm outside, going outside to practice, and trying to utilize different spaces outside of the building. If it's going to be not possible to go outside, then they are going to be teaching them of different notes and different things that they need to learn, but they're going to sort of flip the classroom, meaning the students will be practicing those instruments at home. Orchestra is a little bit different because there is no blowing of things into some of the instruments. And so students will still be able to play the instruments. It's just that they're obviously going to have face masks on and, and do it that way.
And the truth of the matter is, I mean, those classes are going to look much different. I mean, it's unfortunate that it's not going to be the band, orchestra, choir classes that we have in our memory. But we got to keep in mind this is temporary. We're hoping that this is not what the whole school year is going to look like, and we'll progressively be able to integrate more and more of the normalcy that we've grown accustomed to. So there may be more music history, music theory. It's gonna be hard to do a true performance base because we are gonna have kids at home and in school. So we're gonna make do. What we want to do is just keep the kids interested, keep them learning. It may be a little bit different learning, and right now we're not gonna be able to have any concerts or anything of that sort. But I also know that the teachers they're actually networking with band teachers and directors all across the country. I just met with Mr. Sutton last week, and there's all kinds of creative ideas. I just saw in Novi High School they were putting masks on their instruments, kind of covers, and trying to be creative. They were still outside, but just looking at ways to overcome some of the challenges. And so this is where our creativity comes in. And I think we got a great group of teachers who are using this as an opportunity to how can we keep kids engaged, keep their love and passion for band and music and orchestra alive, and just get through this period of time till we can get back to why they love band and music and orchestra. So really quick, Bosh, you talked about Gators.
Yep.
It was something that popped up, and we had a couple chats on this, and they're referencing news stories that popped up on Yahoo and then as recent as CNN, and regarding that reports coming out that the Gators are not providing the protection that we expect out of the face masks, and they may actually cause more harm. And this was brought to my attention earlier today, and we already put a call into the health department. Brian Warlow, who's been kind of taking the lead, because we're actually selling the Gators through our athletic department to try to get their response from that. So we haven't gotten one yet, but obviously, if we find out that the Gators are not going to create the protection that we expect, we're going to have to make an appropriate change. And so I just want to be careful. It's not that I don't trust what I read on news, but I also want to be careful to verify it through the health officials, because they'll definitely give us the guidance that we need. So, and we'll definitely let everybody know when or if those changes have to take place.
So Jeremy mentions that there's a lot of people who have access to cleaning supplies and wondered if we were having a drive of any kind to collect those things. And I think that's a great idea. And so probably we can add it to a list. I don't know that there's one planned right now. So
yeah, no, there's not. And, we've got a lot of generosity. We've had some folks give us masks, homemade masks. We have a parent whose sister works for a company that produces them out west, and they were going to donate hundreds of those to us. And so obviously that's something that we're going to take advantage of. But cleaning supplies is not something that we're going to hold a drive, because we got to be very careful, because we have to have ratings and paperwork for all the cleaning supplies. There's strict governmental regulations. And it doesn't matter if it's as simple as a Clorox wipe, which you can't even find those anyways. But we can't collect cleaning supplies, because schools, we have to report, we have to have documentation of everything we use. and there's strict numbers and reporting that we have to have. So unfortunately, that's just not something we can do. But if we get into a bind and we're running short on particular items that we could benefit from, we absolutely will lean on our community because they've been great throughout this whole situation. And right now, we are in pretty good shape. We have gotten federal money. There is COVID money. We received $30,000. It's not a big chunk, but that was enough to get us started with purchasing the PPE and the materials we have. And our hope is that there's going to be additional federal relief funds that we can devote to this because the costs are going to continue on throughout the course of the year, obviously.
So then I'm going to kind of group a couple questions together here, being that there were some questions about how the virtual student enrollment will change or affect class size for face-to-face students. So that's sort of part one of that question.
Asha, you want to take that or you want me to take that?
Yep. So what I can tell you is that our virtual students are going to be cohorted together. And what that means is that let's say we have 20 first graders at Country that want to, their parents signed them up to be part of the Pinckney Virtual Academy. We will cohort them into one class together, one classroom with one teacher. And so I want to talk a little bit about how we came up with the virtual plan and the reason why it is important to talk about the three things that we really wanted to preserve. The first thing that we wanted to preserve is that we really wanted our teachers to be teaching the virtual students. We didn't want to outsource a program or something where it's somebody else outside of our district teaching our kids. The second thing that we wanted to preserve is to make sure that our students are learning with our Pinckney curriculum. Should they want to come back to school or should parents feel more comfortable? We didn't want them to be in learning somewhere else and coming in at a different point in their learning and lose some instruction time for that. And then the last thing is we really wanted to preserve the chance that kids can come back to a classroom of kids that they know into their own buildings. And so the way that that's how we decided to cohort those kids together. And so one teacher per grade level, there could be a couple teachers based on the numbers, will be dedicated to the virtual students, and those virtual students will be in that teacher's class along with face-to-face students. So if there's about 20 students that are virtual in a first grade class, you're looking at anywhere from 5 to 8 kids that would be face-to-face in that classroom. That teacher would have a strict specific schedule for the virtual students to log in and to have lessons with that teacher. There would be pre-recorded lessons as well. And so it would definitely be a mix of that synchronous or live instruction and asynchronous, which is the instruction that you do on your own time. And our teachers saw a lot of possibilities in that. They could group the virtual students with the face-to-face students. They could still have partners. They could still have a lot of the learning and more of the learning that could occur in a better way than if they were just all virtual together. So that's one thing. So is it going to lower class sizes for a particular class of the face-to-face kids? Yes, but the class size is still going to be a typical class size that you would have in any of the other classes. Should the students want to come back to face-to-face learning, they would come back to that teacher's classroom and to that school. So I'm specifically referring here to K-3, Country, and Farley. And obviously, if they're in 4th grade and they had, or 6th grade, they had Mrs. Canerva, and they wanted to, they're like, what, I feel comfortable. We're in, phase 5 now. I can learn. I can go to school. I feel much better being there. Then that student would return to Mrs. Canerva's class, but they would just be face-to-face now versus virtual. So those are things that we really wanted to make sure that we put in place.
So Basha, that actually beautifully segues to the other question that, again, I'm kind of gathering from several questions that are here, and that is really the return window. So yep. When is it possible for my student to return to the classroom, or is it only at a certain time?
So it's a little bit of a combination of both. When parents are signing up for a virtual, for the Pinckney Virtual Academy, what they are trying, what we are asking is that they know that they're committing to a chunk of time. And so what I mean by that is right now we have it at semester end, and that's, if things don't change, if we're still in phase 4, we're still, social distancing, we're still doing that. We're assuming, especially based on a survey that we took, where we had over 460 some parents express an interest. We asked what they wanted, whether it was by quarter to return, or by semester, or by year. The majority of our families wanted either semester or year long. Now, with that being said, let's say we change to phase 5, this fall. That doesn't mean that we would alter our plan for our virtual students. We want them back in our schools. But we wanted to make sure that we had specific timelines. So it could be at a time where it might not even be at a quarter end. It just depends on what's happening outside with our community when it comes to COVID-19. So we don't want to say that you can only come back at semester end, but we also don't want to say that you can come back whenever you want. There will be open window times where we're going to say, okay, more and more parents are feeling more comfortable, so we're going to open this window of time. If you want your child to return face-to-face, this is the time to do it. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait until this amount of time. So we just wanted parents to know that they are signing up for a extended period of time and not just a couple weeks. And the reason why is because it's really disruptive for kids to be coming in and out of the classroom on a regular basis, especially since we created these cohorts of kids being in the classroom. And so we wanted to make sure that we provided support for the teachers and also the learners in that class, and also the child. So I hope I answered that. I don't want to say it's a cut and dry semester end. That's what we put in there, is that plan on a semester if things don't change. If we're in phase 4 and things are just not looking that they're going to improve, I'm assuming you will want to have your students stay at home at the virtual learning, because that is why you're not sending them to school. And then if, we move to phase 5, then we're definitely going to look at that opportunity to say, okay, it's phase 5. Parents probably want their kids back in school. We're going to open it up. We're going to do a lot of surveys and ask parents questions as well, especially about virtual students, of how things are going and so forth. Last but not least, I do want to say that if there's an extenuating circumstance where a child is either not doing well in the classroom or not doing well face-to-face, definitely contact your principal and we'll have a conversation about whether you can return earlier or not.
I guess one more clarification on all that would be going the other direction. There is some question about if I get a week and a half into this and don't feel like this is comfortable or safe enough, can I switch over to virtual?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we're very sensitive to the situation, and we're not going to force a student or a family to learn in an environment that they're just not comfortable with. And so we're going to, we always work with individual families, and we pride ourselves on that, and thinking is that, we try to use common sense. We look at each individual situation, because everything's unique. And as Mrs. Keeler said as well, we didn't want to lock people into a time frame for this, but we're going to continue reassessing. This situation is so fluid, as we all know, it changes quickly. And so, after, the quarter, we're going to take a look at things, and we're going to decide in which direction we're going to get feedback from parents. But also, a home situation could change. Maybe a parent is home right now and they feel they're able to support their child with virtual learning, but maybe then they have to report back to work and they've got, they're not there to support. So obviously things are going to happen. Life is going to happen. But we want to try to keep it as consistent, not only for the student, for the teachers as well. There's a lot to juggle, a lot to manage on both ends. And what we don't want are people making emotional decisions. And that's very hard to do, because it's a very emotional situation with what's going on, and because these are your kiddos as well. We understand that. So we're just trying to, be thoughtful about it, be strategic. But in the end, we're always going to work with families and do the best thing. Because, we found out that's a win-win for everybody when we look at it from that perspective.
I do want to answer some questions as far as the protocol. Tracy Parks asked about when someone tests positive. So that was sent out in an email today to all the families by Rick, and it talked about different scenarios in schools. And so if you have a chance to look at some of those attachments he sent earlier today, you'll know exactly what it depends on the type of scenario that is. So right. in those documents he sent out, I think there's like 3 or 4 different scenarios that you can look at and say, okay, if this happened, this is what you need to do. If this happened, this is what you need to do, and so forth.
But one thing I will add, those are great resources that the health department put together, and it's not as black and white as let's ask question, what do you do? Because there is a lot that has to go into it. One thing is contact tracing. One of the resources I didn't share, because it's more of a tool for us, that the health department shared is a contact tracing spreadsheet. So when we find out that someone is tested positive, it doesn't mean they tested positive in school. I mean, we could have just gotten a phone call from a parent letting us know that this was the case. We have a protocol that we must go through and provide. We have to get information from the family as well as, when did they start exhibiting symptoms? When did you get tested? And because there's all these kind of time parameters that's in place that kind of dictates, the health department will guide us and like what the next steps and help guide the family, obviously, on what and where do we go and who do we have to contact. And so, if it's a situation in school, obviously we're going to have to, we have to investigate all the information we can. We have to report that to the health department because once again, we're not the health professionals. They're going to help support us through any process that takes place. Over the summer, we've been running various camps, clinics, and we've had probably about 3 instances where we were informed that a student may have come in contact with somebody with COVID. And so, we use that as an opportunity and to, during that time, that student had to stay home until we can verify, and they got tested, that everything was negative. And so, that unfortunately has become part of our routine, whether it's at school or at work, is where we're just going to play it. We're better safe than sorry. We want to provide, once again, that learning through a virtual portal through Seesaw and Google Classroom. So if a student has to kind of just stay home while we ensure their safety and everybody else's safety, they can continue learning. So that's what our goal is knowing that, kids are going to be home probably more than they usually are just because sensitivity and, watching symptoms and colds and coughs and all that stuff. And we want to support that learning as much as we can throughout that process. And so, but, once again, know and trust that when situations arise, we're working right hand in hand with the health department because they're gonna help guide us through this. And, our job is to get the information and, and then coordinate that with the families or the students involved.
I also want to say that the virtual academy, so there's a question about was August 7th or 14th. So there are 2 surveys. August 7th was the one where it was just, are you interested? And the one that was just sent out today is, are you committing? So the survey that is due August 14th is about Pinckney Virtual Academy. Like you are signing, you are registering your child to attend Pinckney Virtual Academy.
We're going to be putting you in class. And then for the secondaries, we'll be assigning, so you are registering. So that is a commitment. So we had 458 parents or students commit or express interest, I should say, in the interest survey. So now, but we also know people said they weren't sure. And I've already had a couple say they signed up, but they've changed their mind. They're going to come in school. So we understand because once again, it's emotional. It's a tough decision as a parent to make. But now for staffing reasons, for future planning, we have to know, like, this is the intent from the get-go. So because we have the hard work of working with our staff and getting this all put in place.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions I see about virtual learning. So I feel like I want to respond to all those, and I want to just skip my slides. Would that be okay?
I think that's good. I mean, it's for the sake of time.
Okay, I can always go back.
Yep.
So number one, I just wanted to show you on this slide. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to point out, Basha, that the presentation is available on YouTube. If anybody wanted to go back and see that, it was sent out to the community, and I'll try to I'll try to take a few minutes to post that on the COVID-19 information page, which is I did put a link to that in the chat for anybody who wants to be able to go out there. It's got a lot of the resources that we've been talking about, but I'll also make sure that's there as well. So if they wanted to see this presentation, they could jump out there.
Okay. Thanks, Michael. So I also want to talk a little bit about PCS Virtual Academy and just the numbers. This is the interest numbers that we had as of last Thursday. So we had 450 students and their families were interested in Virtual Academy. This is why we're offering it, is because we had an enormous amount of families being interested in offering this to their children. So I want to talk about just some important details overall about PCS Virtual Academy, and then I want to talk about specifically what K-6 will look like and what 7-12 will look like. So first of all, it's going to be offered all year, no matter what phase we are in for K-12 students. So even if we move to phase 3, where we're going into remote learning, students will still be in the Virtual Academy. Parents should expect asynchronous and synchronous instruction. So what that means is they should expect the learning to be not live, pre-recorded lessons, students working on their own time, but they should also expect some of the time for students to be logging in and having face-to-face learning with their teachers and their classmates who are in school face-to-face. I already talked about that our PCS teachers will be teaching the virtual classes with our curriculum. We talked about our students being cohorted together, so they will have a community of learners. So although the students are virtual, they still will have their virtual friends that they can connect with and do projects with virtually. And so we talked about how we're cohorting them together so they have a place to come back to and they're not put into a brand new teacher, brand new classroom with students they have not had any interaction with. Students will be able to choose to attend in-person events like school dances, graduation, order spirit wear, appear in the yearbook, etc. They're still able to participate in most extracurricular activities after schools. And we are saying that if parents make the, commitment to have their students be taught virtually and attend Pinckney Virtual Academy, that we're saying that you are committing for a period of time. Now I know here it says at semester end, and that's with the thought that we are in phase 4. If we move to phase 5, we will open up those windows and be able to have students return early. If there's students who are not doing well virtually and it's not working out for them, we will have conversations with those students. We just want to make sure that our families are committing to the learning for more than a week or 2 or even a month. And that's because it does become a distraction to the students who are in school face-to-face and to the teachers. I mean, they need to prepare and have all of those materials available for the students should they return. Our K-6 virtual learning details. So I've had conversations with our K-6 parents who are really considering virtual learning to get some feedback from them. And one of the things that they talked about is because if you have a kindergartner through 6th grade student at home learning, you are, as a parent, going to have to support those students a lot more than a student who is in 7th through 12th grade. I don't mean all kids, but for the most part, based on our feedback that we received from parents, our K-6 parents felt like they were the home, the teacher for the child in the spring. And it's because these students do need more support. They're not able to sit on their own and learn for a number of hours without the support of an adult to be with them. And so our learning at the K-6 level will be fluid, meaning it's going to be synchronous. We're going to offer synchronous lessons where students are able to log in real time, see their classmates. Those lessons will also be recorded and posted on Seesaw. And so if a student is not able to log on because of parent working or them having a different schedule than their students, then parents can still attend that lesson on their own time, complete the assignments on their own time, and turn those assignments in with the child, whether it's at 6 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, or maybe at 3 o'clock, but the lesson, the synchronous lesson occurred at 9 a.m. in the morning. And then along with that, we will offer asynchronous learning, which means it's pre-recorded lessons that students will, be watching, learning from. They're going to be short, but they're going to be direct instruction to help the students complete the assignments that are put in front of them. There will be small group times that are scheduled over the course of the week to provide opportunities for further instruction. And it depends on the student's level of learning. So they might need additional interventions or supports, and those will be scheduled on a case-by-case basis. Our teachers will still assess the students. So if I'm thinking at the K-6 level where their reading is at and so forth, and that will be done virtually in a one-on-one setting. The amount of time that each student will be scheduled in small groups will really depend on the individual student needs. So some students might not need the extra support while others might need a significant amount of supports. Students with IEPs or 504 plans are definitely going to receive more supports because it's part of their plan. Parents should expect a weekly schedule that will be provided for each day of the week. And so you're going to have a schedule for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. On Monday, you're going to have a pre-recorded lesson or a time to log in for a lesson with an assignment for math. Same for reading and then an assignment. Same for writing and assignment, science, social studies. Same thing for Tuesday, same thing for Wednesday, same thing on Thursday, and then same thing on Friday. So parents should expect a more streamlined process than what it was offered in the spring. This is very, very different, and I really don't want parents to think that we're going to be doing exactly what we did in the spring, because we will not be. And we will be utilizing Seesaw for our K-6 students. Now, there have been some concerns about using Seesaw, and I just want to let everyone know that we've listened to the concerns from our families of it not being organized, as well as our teachers, and we are going to be changing the way that classes are scheduled into Seesaw. So it's going to be a much more smoother experience, and it's going to be a much more streamlined process for our students and for their families.
Well, and Basha, I just want to add too, I think our teachers have done a lot of hard work throughout this process. As you said, when they had 3 weeks for some of them to utilize Seesaw for the first time. It's a really robust tool. I was fortunate for my 4th grade daughter to have teachers who are familiar with it, and I got to experience from a parent's and the robust nature that it can be used and just the extent of it. And I know our teachers have been learning. They're working with each other. They always work hard over the summer. But this year, it's been focused, knowing kind of the direction we're heading on how to best maximize what it offers. And so I'm excited for that, because I think it's a great tool for both in school. We've been using it here in school for years, especially at Country Elementary. And so it really meets the needs of students who are actually physically in class, and also, more importantly, in this situation, for those who are at home.
Yep. So the next is our 7-12 virtual learning. And so again, our students will be cohorted together in the same classes as much as possible. And so the way that you want to think about 7-12 is students, let's say first hour is English 9 for, at the high school. And let's say that hour is being taught virtually by a teacher who's assigned to, as part of their daily duties, is to teach freshman English 9 first hour from 7:30 to 8:30, whatever it may be. Those students will be cohorted into that hour, and that is going to be their teacher. So again, should they return to school, they would be going back to a normal schedule they would have. The students at the 7-12 level will also follow a block schedule, same as the face-to-face students in grade 7 to 12. We'll be utilizing Google Classroom for our 7-12 students, as our families and teachers are already familiar with the platform. Our students at the secondary level will be expected to learn synchronously and asynchronously, meaning the fluidity there is going to be less. We are expecting students to log in and have face-to-face time with their teachers. We are not expecting our virtual students to be logged in from 7:30 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon. The way that this schedule, it will really depend on the student and what their classes that they're taking in those levels. But one of the things that will happen is they will log in for, let's say, the first 15, 20 minutes of their hour. They're going to get the lesson. They can stay on and receive extra support, or they can log off, do their work, and then wait until their next hour happens. Because we're on a block schedule, I know that one of the hours will be short, 4 days a week, but the other 3 hours that they'll take will be about 90-minute classes. And so again, the student will log in at a specific time. They'll get a schedule, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, to let them know exactly what it is that they're going to be doing for each of their classes. Obviously, our counselors and our principals at the secondary level are going to work with the students to help them with any schedule changes that they might have. And they will work with those students, especially if there's some scheduling that needs to change because of the virtual plan. No, you can't. Sorry. I'm sorry. See, I have a child at home too. What I want to say also that I didn't mention here is we want to make sure that our students are feeling supported when they're in the virtual academy, and we want to make sure that they have a place or a home to come back to. I hope you see that through this plan. This was very intentional. Us designing this plan this way was intentional with the students in mind. We want them back in our classrooms face-to-face, but we can also understand why parents might be nervous about sending their kids back face-to-face learning. So I just want to make sure that everyone kind of understands of our thought behind this. I do want to talk about CTE, and I know Rick mentioned it, but I feel like it's good for me to repeat it one more time. our students who are in CTE programs, CTE cannot be replicated virtually. So if they have a graphics, they're in the graphics design program, which they travel to Brighton High School to do that. We cannot replicate that on an online setting. So we are going to ask our CTE students to attend those. But all the other courses in their normally scheduled day will be virtual. So that is the one exception that we're making for the virtual learning. And again, it's because we cannot replicate those courses. There are some courses that our students are going to be taking that they might need to have another elective that they take. And the reason why is because, again, we might not be able to provide that virtually for them to have the hands-on experience. Okay, I know that there's lots of questions coming in. So I'm not sure if I should keep going or if I should help answer those questions. I see that Janet's also answering questions and so forth.
I think you can keep going. I think we're doing okay between Michael and I know like so Janet's jumped in and trying to address that. So
I think we're fairly caught up. I don't think I've missed any major questions, and if I have, please copy and paste so we can make sure we address your question, because we're trying to catch them all, but sometimes 5 appear at once. So
well, and then Basha, I'll just interject real quick because Stacy has got a good question, and I addressed this in Thursday, and I think it's important to do so as well. In regards to, if social distancing is not possible in classes, what's the best way to mitigate the stop spread, and why are we returning to face-to-face? And so a very legitimate question and a very, I think, expected one, given what we're seeing, with schools making a choice to go full virtual. And, if you watch the news and hear reports, you don't hear a lot of good news. And so it's very easy to get in a mindset of we just need to close school and provide everybody a remote learning experience. And so, but, the perspective that we've been taking, not only here in Pinckney, but throughout Livingston County, is really taking a look at our situation here. Because the experience we have here in Livingston County is not the same as other counties. It's not the same. And, even from Michigan to other states, obviously, we're hearing things across the entire country that are far worse than what's happening here. But here in Livingston County, we're in a situation where our rate of infection is one of the lowest, especially in southeastern lower Michigan. And, working, once again, right beside the health department. And, I showed the graph last week at the meeting where the rate of infection was 1.6%, which is quite low. Their goal is to keep it below 3%. And not only is it 1.6%, that's been the pattern and the trend for some time. And that's what we're looking for is trends. And actually, in the email that I sent today, sent a screenshot because I do that on a regular basis. Since this last week, it went down to 0.9, below 1%. And that is a trend we're seeing, is that the rate of infection is extremely low here in Livingston County. So that is the one aspect that we feel like we owe it to our students to try to make an effort to get them back in school, because they do need to be in school. I think we all recognize that, not only for academic, but just social emotional needs, and just our teachers are great, and they're trained, and their expertise lies in providing a face-to-face educational experience. And I'm not going to lie, you cannot replicate that at home. The quality that we can do here in school cannot be replicated at home. But we want to give it every opportunity to get our students back in the classroom with our amazing teachers. And so along with that, we are putting all the safety precautions we can in place. And I truly believe, and I've got 3 kids here in the school, and they're all coming to school September 8th, is that schools will be one of the safest environments for our kids. I truly believe that. When I see families and where we're going to Kroger's and to Target and the stores and just out and about. I was at the Pinckney recreational area for a picnic this past Saturday, and just saw, what people they're there, and just kind of the unstructuredness of the environment. And I think of what we're providing here in school, not only with the cleaning, but just the protocols, the thoughtfulness. It's not going to be perfect. We can't social distance in every area. But I believe with us, making sure everybody's wearing masks, the continual cleaning that we have throughout the day and every evening and on Fridays, and just the protocols that our principals are putting in place, along with just, once again, the low infection rate, I think we have a great opportunity to provide a quality experience for our students and keep our students and staff safe. The data shows that a majority of a high majority of people are healthy in Livingston County. The data shows that. I mean, that's what we're relying on is from the health department. On the flip side, if we see that change and we see that going in a trend that is not positive, we're going to have to make the appropriate decision. We're not going to put, everybody at risk for or jeopardize safety that is not beneficial. So, but we do feel that in Livingston County, we have a situation where we can create a safe environment. And once again, looking at all the different environments that I've been in both professionally and personally, I feel our schools, and I think I've always believed this, our schools are the safest place for our kids. Never will you be surrounded by the number of adults who are looking out for our kids, teaching them the right habits, and now we're going to be teaching safety habits for them. And it doesn't mean that we may not have concerns or we're not going to have issues, but that's something we're going to have to live and learn how to adjust with, because unfortunately, I don't think we can wait until there is zero instances of the virus, because I think we'll be waiting a long time for that. And none of us know when a vaccine or safe vaccine is available. So we have an opportunity to transition through this, to see how it works, and we're going to learn a lot. We've had great experience with our pirate camp over the summer. Since June, we've not had one issue with 40 to 60 kids in Country Elementary, 5 days a week. Gone extremely well. We've had hundreds of kids at our high school and schools participating in a variety of events. Like I said, we had 3 instances where we had some concern, but they were all negative. So we've been working with kids and staff, and the process is in place, and we feel comfortable that we have a great staff. We have, obviously people with concerns, with nerves, with anxieties. I have all those myself, but I also have a great immense of confidence in our staff, in our parents, and in our kids. I think our kids are going to respond extraordinarily well. I know sometimes we worry about them responding to us, but I've been very impressed with what I've seen in our community and the opportunities I've seen our kids. So, once again, we're here in Livingston County, we're here in Pinckney, and I think we have an opportunity to get our kids back in school. And for those, once again, who are not comfortable with that, that's why we have the virtual academy, because we understand that may be the best place for some of our students at this point in time. You're muted, Basha.
There is a question that I want to answer that was talked about that I want to answer as far as why isn't it that we're spreading our virtual kids across classes? And so that was an option that we did discuss at length with our teachers and our principals and our administrators. And our teachers felt that one of the things that happens when we spread out virtual students, and so you might have like 2 in this class or 3 in this class, 3 in this class, 3 in this class, and so the class sizes are lower, the face-to-face class sizes are lower, and that was a benefit of that. But one of the drawbacks is that the students then, because the majority of the kids are face-to-face and not online, the teachers felt like they wouldn't be able to teach the students that are virtual in the best capacity as possible. So they were really trying to balance out the equation between having the virtual students, enough of them so they could group them together electronically and virtually, and be able to then provide some kind of a community between the virtual students and the students who are face-to-face. The other piece is that if we have enough students to fill an entire class that are virtual, that will be an only virtual class. And so there won't be any students in that class. And so that teacher will only be teaching virtual students. Being able to teach virtually and face-to-face students at the same time will take a special person to do that. And as our teachers collaborated around this, they really felt that there's some teachers that will definitely want to do it and they're excited to do it, and they had all these passionate ideas about doing it. But then there was other teachers where they just felt like, I'm not sure if I'm the right person to do it. And it's okay. We want to make sure that we put people in the right places where they feel most comfortable. And so that's really the reason why we did not do that option. It was one of the 4 choices we came up with, but there was some thought behind of why we didn't want to just sprinkle the kids all around. And it's because we felt like the virtual students would not be able to get good instruction because there was just minimal numbers in each of the classes.
Great. Well, and and somebody, I think it was Jess, was asking a question about the 4+1. We have the 1 day virtual for Friday, and Brighton is looking at a 2-1-2 model, which their day is on Wednesday. Fowlerville's looking at that same model. Heartland is using the same model as we are, a 4+1 with on Friday. And there's a variety of reasons why we're doing that. First off, yeah, obviously, everybody goes to, we're going to use that to really make sure we get throughout a thorough cleaning of the building, even though we're going to be cleaning every night, every classroom every night, lockers. We want to make sure that we do an extensive cleaning before the next week starts. So that's obviously one reason. But also reason is our staff. Our staff, and especially at secondary level, we're going to have teachers teaching both, and even at the elementary, both virtual and in-person learning. And that is something we're asking them to do that is above and beyond in the sense of what they've done before, learning new skills and new applications. And so, I think it's warranted to provide a day for them as well to be able to focus on that. Monday through Thursday, they're going to have kids in their class all day long like they usually do. And that is time intensive. And these folks have lives. They have obligations with their families at night. My expectation is they're not working 15 hours a day. And so on a Friday is to provide that time too, to give them time to say, okay, this is a virtual day that, yes, they're going to connect and kids are going to be working at home. But at the same time, our teachers, they're going to need that time to make that adjustment. It's like, especially at the secondary level, because they're going to have both. They may have a section of 8th grade math that's all virtual, and then they're going to have 5 other classes of kids in class. And so that's one of the other reasons. And also the reality is we don't know what the future is going to hold. If things progress and if they get worse, the whole state may be put on remote learning. That's out of our control. If that happens, we're gonna pivot and we're gonna have to move in that direction. And if our students are already in that mode of connecting remotely, all of them, not just our virtual academy students, but all our students on Friday. So when we do have to pivot, or if, let's say not do, but if we have to pivot, and God forbid, I don't want to do that, so please don't get me wrong, but we don't know how things are going to go. If we have to pivot, at least all our students are already connected in a kind of from a remote standpoint, because Fridays are already getting into that routine. So it's being thoughtful about always trying to be prepared for what it could be the next possible next step, and also supporting our teachers and then supporting and cleaning the building. So that's us. We chose Friday because first off, it's the end of the week. We already had a shortened day because of our PD, and we're still providing PD for our teachers on that day. And so we just thought it was the best. Our community's already adjusted to our kids getting out a little bit earlier on Fridays. So it just made sense for us to do that. So that's why we moved forward with Fridays. Now, it may change. That may, we're not saying this is written in stone for the whole year. If we get moved in phase 5 or above, we're gonna pivot back, and we want the kids here 5 days a week, and we'll have to make that adjustment. But that's just going to be a constant reassessing of the situation, and we would give full notice to parents to make that adjustment. And I've also been asked the question: are we going to provide childcare on Fridays, all-day latchkey? And I just met with Brian Warlow today, our community ed director. And yes, we are going to be exploring that. We're going to need to put out a survey for students who would be able to take advantage of that, because we'd have to have a kind of a minimum number to run it. But that is something that we're looking to do. It may be modified, from what we have, but it would be an all-day latchkey situation, very similar to what we're doing right now with our Pirate Camp, that we would operate to provide parents an option. So.
There are some questions about Chromebooks. Yes, Chromebooks will be provided to students who need them virtual learning. Our district will be a 1-to-1 district probably in the middle of October. Not sure if you know, but Chromebooks are any type of laptop devices on back order right now. We were one of the first districts to order those Chromebooks back in June, and they are going to be arriving sometime at the end of September. We have enough Chromebooks for all the students in grades 3 through 12. And then we will take a survey of which parents need a Chromebook at the K2 level, so that if they are virtual. So we will be providing those, and then all of the students will have Chromebooks K12 by the middle of October. Someone asked about dismissal times at Pathfinder, if it's going to align with the high school. We're going to keep the same hours that we normally have, so those things are not changing. We will keep the same hours that we had last year. At the bell for the morning and afternoon. Trying to see what else. Someone asked if all virtual students will have a dedicated teacher. What happens if the student returns to in-person learning? Will they be placed with a different teacher? Well, no, that's the point, is that they would reach to that teacher, because I'm sure that child will not be the only one. So that's why that hybrid model of that teacher will have some face-to-face kids, some virtual kids, and when they return, they would go back to that teacher. Unless it's at semester's end, and I know sometimes at the secondary level, schedules change and kids take different classes, so that might play a part into it. But for the most part, we're really trying to keep the kids in the classes that they signed up for. Trying to look through some of these other questions. As far as transportation, if you are not going to be utilizing buses this year, even if you're not doing the Pinckney Virtual Academy, I know that that's going to be part of your re-enrollment process, is you're going to have to check a yes or a no. Like, no, I won't be utilizing our buses this year, although you might not be virtual. So I know that we just talked about that earlier today, so that will be part of the plan. And that's how we will know that you are not going to be utilizing the bus service this year.
Yeah, and Basha, we may actually be putting out a survey to all parents.
It is going to
busing.
all parents.
Yeah, so it's just because we may need to readjust some of our routes.
Yep.
We have a pretty rural area, and sometimes we drive pretty far just to pick up 1 or 2 students, especially if we head out to the Gregory Stockbridge area. So if we know that parents aren't utilizing that, I mean, obviously it's a way for us to save money and be cost effective, but also planning. And so, the flip side is we want to take advantage of smaller numbers to create more space on buses. Buses is definitely a concerning area, very hard, on a traditional bus to provide the spacing you need. So we're going to take advantage of that as well, as we know that even, a lot of parents are working from home and they have the ability to drive their kiddos to school, which is great. And they have that flexibility. So we're going to try to, we just want to try to get the best estimate we can to plan the best that we can and be as efficient and effective.
There are some questions around, when about AP courses. And so AP Biology might be a course that we offer through Michigan Virtual. It really depends at the secondary level how many students are virtual that are taking courses. And so if we have 15 students that want AP Biology and they are all virtual, then we will cohort them together. If we have a couple kids here and there, we might look at offering Michigan Virtual courses to those students, just like we traditionally would if we were a face-to-face school. So it really will depend on the child's schedule. And that's why I mentioned earlier that our counselors and our principals are really eager to work with students who are going to be virtual students to make sure that that schedule aligns with what they need to graduate.
Right.
I know another question was about physical education. Are we going to have physical education that's virtual? Yes, you are. We can do physical education that's virtual. And so your child will graduate on time because we will provide them all of the courses that they need in order for them to graduate on time as scheduled.
Right. Yep. And just what Mrs. Keeler just said about, the high school and the schedules, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to push the school year back to September 8th, because there's going to be a lot of work where, every high school student, we got to go through their schedules. We're reshifting a lot at the very last minute. And so we just, we want to get as much right as possible before our students start September 8th. Our hope is to be as perfect as possible, but we always know that there's going to be bumps in the road. And we want to minimize those bumps. And so just if we were rushed, we know we probably make more mistakes and not get things as right as we want. So, building those extra 2 weeks allows us some time. And, we got a brand new counselor at the high school just started, Mrs. Perales. She came to us from Grosse Pointe. She's fabulous. And so she just started. And so she's just getting her feet underneath her. And so that was just another, it's another factor. Didn't play in our decision making, but it's something we got to contend with. But she's already picking up the ball and rolling. And I'm confident we're going to get everything in place for September 8th.
Roger, you asked a question about if Fridays are considered virtual. Yes, they are, and lessons will be posted on Fridays, and students are expected to complete those lessons before Monday. So those are not optional. We are expecting students to still be learning on Fridays. And again, attendance will be taken, grading will be done, assessments will be done. All those pieces are still part of the child's daily schedule. So I would not consider Fridays as off days. I would definitely consider Fridays as virtual days for learning. The other piece
I'm sorry, Josh, just from the state of Michigan is the way they document that a student is in attendance from a virtual is by doing work, by turning in something, communicating with the teacher, participating. And so, there's generally very strict rules when it comes to accounting purposes. Accounting is a huge part of education because that's how we substantiate our funds. And we got to really prove that our students, while they're with us, it's easy. We take attendance and we can prove it. When they're at home, it's a little more nebulous. And so, Fridays, we have to have, lessons. We have to show the state of Michigan that, our kids are engaged or learning, or part of the learning process. It is because that counts as seat time. We have 180 days of school. Those Fridays factor into 180 days of school. So we can't just discount that. So we need to make sure that we're putting forth our effort, that our kids are engaged. So when we're audited, that we can substantiate that.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in with a question that I think has been posted twice by Deb, but I'm not sure it's been addressed because I've been so frantically typing. And that's about whether or not testing's required for a student before they can return to school if they have some kind of sickness.
Yep, and I answered another parent answered that same question. So testing is not required from the health department, but what they do require is if a student has symptoms,
Quarantine.
They're quarantined. So right, it's the 14 days. They can't. I mean, it's not negotiable. They can't come back. And so that's something that the health department would handle, and they would dictate their date of return. Because once again, it's kind of numbers that they're working with. That 14 days is pivotal, but it's when did they start exhibiting symptoms, and when did they stop being symptomatic? And then they would give the clearance, not the school. The health department would give the clearance and when they can come back. And so our hope is that they get tested, because if they're negative, they can obviously come back much sooner. And I think most parents would want that. I've been tested before because I had a medical procedure. It's no big deal. Back 2 days, and you're ready to go forward. So so yeah, but worst case scenario, if they don't get tested, the health department will then dictate when they can come back to school, and it'll be based upon the quarantine and at least 14 days.
The other piece that I want to talk about the Fridays is, there's some comments here like, oh, good, the teachers have a day off. It's really not a day off for them. I just want to let you know, the reason why we have the Fridays for the virtual learning too is we really want our students to be able to still have some experience with virtual learning. Remember, if we're in phase 5, we are going to go to 5 days a week face-to-face. But in phase 4, in case a child gets quarantined for 2 weeks, in case someone's out for 2 weeks, we still want students to be able to participate in the learning, although they're gone for 2 weeks and they're not there face-to-face. So in order for us to do that, we want our students to get some practice in how to do virtual learning, and it's just 1 day a week. It also provides our teachers to do some professional development on those Fridays. It also allows our teachers to do a lot of planning with each other as far as how to put lessons onto websites, and how to make sure that they're streamlined, how to make sure they're working, how to prepare for the next week. I mean, we are really asking our teachers to provide a virtual type of learning experience for all of their students 5 days a week. And although there's going to be students that are face-to-face, we are expecting our teachers to provide their all of their lessons in an electronic format. And the reason why we're doing that is because we are preparing should a student be out for 2 weeks, should we go to phase 3, should maybe the classroom is quarantined, is we still want those kids to learn, especially if they have no symptoms and they are not sick, as they can be at home for 2 weeks and still do the lessons and everything else, and then they will be providing those lessons. The question is, will teachers still be in schools on Fridays? We really haven't discussed that. I know that that's part of our ongoing discussions right now of where our teachers are going to be working from. So that's not something that we finalized yet, so I don't have an answer for you right now. But I do know that some of our professional development this year is going to be virtual for our teachers, and it's because we're able to then jump from one virtual session to another without losing any travel time between. So there are some positives of us doing it that way, but also I know that face-to-face instruction is unparamount, and especially for students who really need that face-to-face.
And Basha, one sort of tangent, it's not really a tangent from that though, a piece that breaks off of that would be just to clarify, if my student is an in-person student, they're attending face-to-face and gets sick, or gets moved out, are they then a virtual student with a different teacher during that time that they are no longer in the classroom? Or are they just working with the teacher they were assigned to when they were face-to-face?
So this is a temporary 2-week, is that what I
I
heard?
think that was my understanding from the question.
They would still be with their same teacher. This is why we're asking teachers to use the Seesaw platform K6 and Google Classroom 712 on a daily basis with students. Your child, when they're coming into school, is going to have their laptop. They're going to be required. This is a change because I know not every teacher required their students to have their Chromebooks in the classrooms last year. This year, every classroom is going to be required to have the Chromebook. So students really need to make sure that those things are charged and ready to go because they are going to be using it every day in their classrooms, especially at the secondary level. Their lessons, their syllabus, all their assignments is going to be in Google Classroom. And so we're really trying to minimize the amount of paper we're passing up, the amount of things that we're touching. And so the teacher will still be there, still teach, answer questions, but everything like, okay, I want you to log on Google Classroom, here's the syllabus, or here's the plan for the day, this is what we're going to be doing. The teacher will teach it, the students will have an assignment in there. That is the goal for us to do that. And the reason why is because we want it to be seamless between face-to-face and virtual and back in case we need to have those options available to our students. Nicole, you're asking if we start in person and it's not best fit, would they switch teachers? I really can't answer that question until it's got to be a case-by-case basis. Rick, I don't know if I have a clear answer to that question.
I don't even know the response. Say it again.
It says, what about if we start in person, decide it's not the best fit for our student? Can we switch to virtual? Would they switch teachers? It really depends on.
That's really hard. I mean, it's just like when kids switch classes, they may take a class that is not a good fit. You know, we try to do what makes sense. And so in the end, that's what we do. We can't make any guarantees because every situation will be unique. And, you know, if that happens to come up, obviously we want to build as much consistency with kids as possible, but, you know, school scheduling can be quite complex. And when you start making changes, we always do the best we can, but right now we can't guarantee that's what would happen.
And then I don't know if you're addressing the snow days, Rick, but it's a great question.
I was just actually I hit return too early. I was just doing it privately to Eric and Melanie there.
Okay.
Robinson, but no, we haven't really. You know, like I said, I can't even think about snow right now. Just wrapping my head around next 3 weeks, and so you know, obviously in informal circles, there's been talk about snow days and getting rid of it. There's actually been talk from the state of Michigan of reducing snow days from 6 days to 2. So, you know, in theory, I mean, I get it, but there's still a lot goes on. I mean, remember, a lot of times snow days, they just come about without any preparation. So, you know, teachers generally have to prepare and kids have to be ready. So, you know, if it's a prolonged thing and you can prepare for that, that's one thing. But when all of a sudden you get a call at 6 o'clock in the morning and there's a snow day, it's nice to think that all kids can learn from home, but you know, there would have to be lessons all prepared. Kids would all have to have their Chromebooks. You know, you'd have to have power, you know, depending on a snowstorm, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm sure that'll be a topic of conversation, but I'll be honest with you, it's not anything that I'm worried about right now. So. Sorry, we were quiet because we're
your comments are all so very nice.
They are. So
I can tell you that you know, I said this at the very beginning. We had our meeting today, and our director of operations is just 100% confident with all the things we put in place for the safety of our students and staff. And so I feel so good about that. As part of the instructional team, I feel very confident about our instructional plan, the professional development that we have scheduled for our teachers to teach them how to have best practices while teaching a virtual class, and what we should do. I know that the block scheduling is a difference as well for kids and our teachers, and so we're going to be preparing them of what best practice looks like in a block schedule. Our school year will start different. I mean, I think that's important for everyone to know, but we still feel strongly that it's better to have in-person instruction different than it is to have virtual instruction for all. And so that is where our team is coming from, and that's where our community has spoke up. Over 80% of our parents wanted, 90% I think, wanted some form of face-to-face instruction. And so we definitely want to respond to that. And then our teachers have been really supportive. They are nervous, and and it's okay as long as we provide them all of the resources and tools that they need. We're in really, really great shape to start on September 8th.
Yeah, and this is a transition period. I mean, regardless if we even started school remotely, there's going to come a time where we're going to have to transition. We're never going to go from this situation to fully back to what we're used to. There's always going to be a point where we're going to have to kind of work through this, and I'm hoping that we can get a head start and work through it now. And our staff has always been the shining stars, and I think they're going to continue doing that. And I think here in Pinckney, kind of the little school district in Livingston County, in the southeastern quadrant is, I think we're going to surprise a lot of people. And I think we're going to, we're already very proud of the work that we've done. And I'm very proud of the work that I know we're going to do. Not to say there's not going to be bumps in the road. So as always, I'm going to ask for patience and support, because this is a paradigm shift of how we have traditionally in the history of the United States offered public education at this magnitude. When you've got a school district of 2,400 kids, and it's a big undertaking, and starting the school year off is challenging in any normal sense, and let alone with what we're undertaking right now. And so, but we have just exhibited through the comments that you all are sharing. We have a great community, the support. We couldn't do this without that, and it's a very special place to be. So I'm looking forward to it. And once again, if things aren't working, we're going to adjust. We're going to adjust to what we have to do to make sure everybody's safe, and we're doing the best thing for both our staff and for our students. And so, but I'm confident we can make this work.
Looks like there's a couple questions that are getting reposted, so which is great, and I thank you all for doing that, because as I said, we're trying hard to keep up, but sometimes we're missing some of them. And so one of them that came back up, I want to make sure I don't miss any this time. If we have to close, if we move back to phase 3 CTE, what happens to credits?
Well, if we close and we have to go to full remote learning, everything's remote. And so, we have to adjust, which we did in the spring. Our teachers did the best job they could at the high school, providing learning opportunities. It definitely is not at the level that we would expect. But, we don't, if we have to go remote, we definitely, the first thing is we don't want to hurt students. We don't want to take away their opportunity to graduate, to earn credits. And, we may have to explore, once again, a pass-fail option for students. It depends on when that happens or how long we may be in that situation. So we have to take a look at a lot of different variables if or when that happens. But, and I even think, from the MDE and the state of Michigan, our governor, everything that came our way was really in supportive of our students, trying not to let the situation that's outside their control have a negative impact on them as much as possible. So I'm sure the same would hold true.
Another question: if my student has a fever and it turns out it's strep throat, do they, or something similar, do they have to get a COVID test before they return?
No,
okay.
I mean, once again, common sense. Our kids are going to get sick. They have allergies. They're going to get strep throat. They're going to get a cold. So obviously, if you get strep throat, you've probably gone to your primary care physician, and they tested them for strep and it's positive. So you can communicate with us, and just like, once they're well enough to return to school, they're fever free, for over 24 hours, and, they're able to learn that, they can come back. And obviously there's just gonna be a lot of communication, more so than we already have with our parents and with our principals and with our secretaries on these situations. And so, but if it's a diagnosis of strep throat, and then the doctor says that's what it is, and that's what we're going to follow.
There's a question here about kinder-ready students and being included in a regular kindergarten classroom. And I'm just trying to make sense of the question just a second. Do we know the enrollment number? I don't know if I couldn't tell you for sure kinder-ready versus kindergarten, but
so
if you want to address that.
We had a low number of parents express interest in kinder-ready for virtual. And so when we're looking at staffing, and I did, and I did, I think, address this earlier in the chat box, but we are thinking of putting and we don't know right now because registration just opened up today, obviously. So as the week goes on, if the pattern stays true, it may actually be less than what we originally had. We would put those students in with a kindergarten teacher. And the reason being, the Kinder-Ready curriculum is the kindergarten curriculum. That's what it is. It's not. It's done at a little bit slower pace, but and a lot of reasons why parents do have their kiddos in Kinder-Ready is kind of sometimes a maturity, social, emotional, and they just feel like maybe they're just a little bit young, is what we hear sometimes too, is that they're just not ready to take on the demands and the rigor of what a kindergarten classroom looks like. So, but the learning content is actually the same. We don't have a separate curriculum for Kinder-Ready. So the state of Michigan actually considers Kinder-Ready as kindergarten. It's 2 years of kindergarten when students do Kinder-Ready and kindergarten. So that's how it's coded in the state of Michigan. But yeah, so they would not be. I mean, obviously, once again, it's about the learning, and our teachers who teach kindergarten are excellent teachers, and so I feel very confident and comfortable that those kiddos would do just fine in that environment. And obviously, they would require a lot of parent support at home as well.
There's a really important question here from Terry, which is, will we have football?
Well, Terry, that's the question of the day. Obviously, you're hearing the news today with Big Ten possibly changing fall sports. What I was listening to on sports radio right before this meeting started, so I'm definitely tuned into that. And some people think if NCAA changes, that's going to translate to us, and I'm not sure if it is. The MHSAA, which is the governing body of high school sports, has been great through this whole process, and their leadership has been outstanding. And we understand the value of all sports, not just football, but I mean, we got girls field hockey starting, you got cross country, you got soccer, you got just great things for our kids to participate in. And if we can do it safely, in a way that protects everybody, we want to do that. But we got to follow the guidelines set forth by MHSAA. This is not a college campus. We don't have the same concerns as a Michigan State or U of M. Our kids, it's easy for us to control each building individually. Our campus is relatively small. And our students aren't living independently. They're living with you, the parents. And we have to put trust in you as parents are doing the right things, keeping our kiddos safe. And so if we all work together and we all do what we need to do, whether we want to or not, by wearing masks and social distancing and washing our hands and using sanitizer and being mindful of the environment we're in, we can make this work. I truly believe that. If we all come together and then we all just pitch in and do our part, we'll get through this much quicker. And I think we're hopefully starting to see that. Keeping fingers crossed, saying prayers tonight. Yes, I want school to go, and I want our athletic programs to move forward as well.
So, Sherry, the answer to your question, will there be spectators? It depends on whether or not there are sports. So.
Yeah, and if there are spectators, there has been, they're not hard and fast yet, but I think last time I saw for football was 250 spectators. And I think what they're planning on are family members. And I think that's what, if you have spectators, obviously these are our kids. You as parents want to see them. These are moments you're going to cherish for the rest of your life. So I think if they do, and I think they will have spectators, but they will be just designated to immediate family. And it may be a limited number, like 2 per student. So, but I think that's the way we'll see it play out.
Basha, I'm not sure if you can talk to Carrie's question about what typical...
Yeah, I just saw that, and I thought I would say that. So, Carrie, I'm not sure what grade level you're referring to, so I'm going to give you 2 examples. I'm going to give you a K-6 example, and I'm going to give you a 7-12 example. So the question was, what will a typical day, virtual day look like? And so I try to explain this as much as possible, but I'm going to tell you that once this plan gets approved this Thursday, by the Board of Education, which we're hoping it will, we're going to have a group of K-6 teachers sit down and really outline the specifics of what the day will look like for students, and we will do the exact same thing at the 7-12 level. And so that's where all of the details will be shared with you. But I will give you an overview, and I don't want you to quote me and hold me to this, because in my head, I might be thinking differently than a 4th grade teacher that's going to help us really iron out all of those details. So if I had a 4th grader, let's say, and I know that every Monday there would be a set schedule that would be set for the week, I would know exactly what I'm responsible for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. My teacher would then have specialized hours where they would be synchronous or live, where I would log in for 20 minutes, 15 minutes to get the instruction from the classroom. And so that might be happening on Monday, Wednesday. They might be happening Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm not really sure as far as what our teachers will want to do with that kind of learning. They might want to do literacy on Mondays. They might want to do social studies on Tuesdays, or they might want to do all four, but they'll only have the students log in on Mondays and Wednesdays. It really depends on what our teachers feel would be the best type of instruction for our students. Those lessons will all be recorded. So if a student is not able to log in fourth grade at 9 a.m., then that student can watch that lesson at a different time. You should expect your child to have a set schedule Monday through Friday from the time school starts, right, until, and I'm not going to say end of the day. I'm not going to say end of the day. I'm going to say at the elementary level, it'll be a good 3 hours where they've got a structure that they have to follow, okay? At the secondary level, it looks a little different. And again, it goes back to the type of learner that we have at the elementary level versus the secondary level. The secondary level, the students will be expected to log in and follow a regular schedule that the students will have in their classroom. So if they have first hour, second, third, and fourth on Mondays and Wednesdays, that is going to be their schedule. We are not going to expect the students to be logged in for 7 hours a day, and that's what I talked about. If first hour starts at 7:30 and they have English 9, they're going to log in at 7:30 on Monday, they're going to listen to the 20-minute lesson, and then they're going to leave and then work on the material that was assigned. It'll happen the same thing for the second, third, and fourth hour. So you should expect your 7th through 12th grade students to be busy. And when I say busy, we are expecting them to have instruction pretty much. They're going to be busy. They won't be able to do anything else. It is school time, okay? I'm sorry, I have kids running around in the background. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Rick, there's a question. There's a question there about discipline, and I thought maybe you might want to jump in on that one from Stacy about if a 712 student is refusing to wear a mask.
Sure. And, and obviously that's a pretty common question because, you may have adolescents at home or teenagers, or we work, as a middle school principal for many years and teacher. And, it's normal for adolescents to push back and to sometimes test limits. And so first off, what we want to do is, we don't want to treat this as, something that, we're going to, it's not about enforcing rules. The perspective we take is, we're a family, we're here to take care of one another, and we're going to do what it takes to make sure that we respect one another by wearing the masks and, and understanding it's not about rules. It's not about us it's about us doing the right thing. And, and all our rules are around our safety. And I'll be honest with you, most time when you present it that way to a student, they get it. Because it's not about pushing back a rule. This is about, hey, this is how we take care of one another. So it's an opportunity to educate, to let them know why it's important. But at the same time, we have to set boundaries and say, if you're going to be part of our school family and you're going to be here, it's not negotiable. Like, you have to wear this mask, and we want you here. If you're going to be here, you need to do your part. And in the end, if a student just chooses not to, then that's where we have to work with the parent. Hopefully they can help support us. And if it's not, then we're like, okay, the virtual setting may be the best route for this child. And there may be, disciplinary consequences as well. No difference from a student who doesn't want to abide by the dress code and or other expectations. And so, we're looking for an opportunity first and foremost to teach, to actually strengthen our relationships with our kids, because we believe that when you humanize it and you let them know this isn't about rules, it's about being part of a community, being part of a society that's here looking out for one another. And I found from my experience that when you do that, 99% of the time, they comply because we're not pushing back. It's not about picking a fight. It's about doing the right thing. So, I'm sure those instances will come up. We'll take advantage of it. And, once again, our parents have been great. And when we're aligned with parents at home and school, generally everything works out the way that it needs to.
Speaking of discipline, my kids need some discipline after I'm done with this meeting.
It's bedtime, so there's,
It's summer. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Colleen, I just lost your question. There was you posted something here about wanting some clarification about masks being required because it currently says only 6th through 12th grade on an FAQ. which I wonder if that's something we may have missed in the most recent FAQ.
Well, and this has taken shape over the, over the span of time. And if you look at the roadmap plan, there's expectations for students 6 through 12 to wear face masks all day long. And then there's some variances for students K through 5, and all students have to wear masks on the bus. And so this is something we worked hard with our county-wide colleagues and with our staff here and with teacher leadership. And so just talking about, what's the best way to keep everybody safe and be consistent. I think consistency and following guidelines is the best way to enforce it. When we start varying, and especially within schools itself, the navigator's got 3 different grades and they'd have 2 different sets of expectations. I think makes it challenging for both students and for staff. So we thought it was, and we do feel, and this is common throughout Livingston County, that all students should be wearing masks K through and even kindergarten through 12. It's the best way to keep everybody safe. We want to keep our staff members safe, those from kindergarten to 5th grade. We want to keep all the kiddos in those classrooms as safe as possible. We know, once again, from talking to the health department, the mask is a great way to mitigate the spread. And I truly believe that. And it's not comfortable. It's not something that I'm looking forward to. But you know what? I got to think outside myself, and we're going to make it work. And at the same time, I think I've already said this, with especially our younger kiddos, teachers thinking about opportunities to take breaks. There's outside, there's snack times, there's okay, we just need to kind of take a 5-10 minute break from this. Because it is going to be challenging at that young age. And so, but once again, I'm confident that we can do it, and so we can go above and beyond what the roadmap plan states. And you've seen from a new mandate just came out last week is that now they're asking little guys in camps and daycares to wear masks as well. So you're seeing that trend, and I think it's going to end up there anyways. We're just putting it in place ahead of the curve.
Emily asks if there's anybody who can comment on the kindergarten meet and greet on Thursday. This is nothing I know anything about, and I don't know if either of you have any info.
No, that would be a question that I would, maybe email either Mrs. Taylor or Mrs. Badalucco about. I don't have any information. I'd like to think that I know everything about everything, but I don't. So
I think that hits all the questions that we saw posted here. Oh, is there an ETA for more information about preschool?
You know what? Like I said, we are planning on having preschool, and Mrs. Brockway, I know I saw Trish.
She's been lurking in here answering questions.
She's been doing a great job addressing some of the questions in there. She's our preschool teacher at Country, obviously, many of you know her, but we are, we're moving forward with preschool. I just met with Mr. Warlow today, got a plan in place in terms of, where parents are going to drop off. This is at Country specifically, where they're going to pick up. And so I'll get with him tomorrow. We'll make sure we get information out that hasn't been already put out. So.
And Trish says that Cindy McClafferty would probably have the answers about preschool, and you can reach her at 225-3950 is the number for community education. Yeah,
she's the assistant for community education, and she's a great resource. Thank you, Trish.
Another question about schedules in general. I don't know what our launch date is at this point for releasing student schedules.
I believe that K-6 will be the 28th of August, which is the week before school starts. And so this is why our virtual academy, when we looked at the timelines, we really want all the kids registered by August 14th because we will need to shuffle schedules around. And we want to make sure that we provide all of our families the schedules that they need of who their teachers are and what their child's schedule looks like in advance. Because also we are offering, planning on having a, Janet, you got to help me out, curriculum night for our K-6 families. That's going to happen the following week. And I believe it's happening on the 2nd of September that we have planned for so much. Yep. That email was sent out today to all of our K-6 families. I know our 7-12 curriculum night usually occurs after school begins. And I know that they're planning on sending out videos to help all of the students and families understand what the social distancing protocols and everything else will look like. So we are trying to get as much information out to you as possible, but at the same time, we understand that we don't want to overwhelm you. And so our teachers and our principals have been working really, really hard to address all of the questions that you have. We're doing it district-wide just to get everyone to understand what the plans will look like. But as far as the specific details about, for example, what lunch will look like or what recess will look like, it really is a building-specific thing, because every school has a different lunchroom setup, a different recess setup, and so forth.
Rick, did you want to put in a plug for the, we're going to have another one of these meetings, yes?
Oh, yes. Oh, tomorrow. Yep. We're running a summer meeting just to, cover a lot of the information, just, giving our opportunity for questions. And that's scheduled for 1 o'clock. And I'll, just like I did today, I'll text out that Zoom link tomorrow. Just make sure people have it. And, depending on where we go, we talked about maybe if we're seeing the need for additional information, we'll continue to maybe early next week as we progress. And so but once again, I am recording this, and we'll record tomorrow's as well. So those who can't participate, but Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, when we record this, they're not going to get the questions that were in the chat, correct?
I don't think those will show up, but
Right.
I will do my best to see if I can capture them and we can post them somewhere else.
Yeah, there's a lot there. So,
There's
yeah,
a lot of
there's a
information there.
lot. So, but I think we did address a lot of them. Verbally.
There was one other question that just popped up here about the virtual academy for preschool. I guess I'm not sure if that's an option.
There isn't right now. And we just talked about this once again this morning. We're looking at Fridays, because right now, like preschool will be Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. So it's one of the things we're thinking about. We had a conversation about all-day latchkey on Friday, and maybe running preschool, because I think it's just in the morning until 12:30. But also, maybe looking at an opportunity to provide that Friday as a virtual day as well. So I don't think a decision's been made. So that's something I'm sure Mr. Wardlow and talking with the staff and trying to figure out what's the best thing, and also with the district, on Fridays too. So, but we do not have a separate virtual academy for preschool this time.
The question also is, when will our calendar be available on our website?
Oh, tomorrow. I actually meant to get it today, but my days go by faster than I'd like. So we got it all set. We had to put it in a different format, but we'll get it on our webpage. Michael here, he's in charge of doing that, so we'll make sure we get that out. I'll email it as well, and you'll see that tomorrow morning.
I wasn't addressing the question about whether or not parents are allowed to create a coffee and tea fund for, but I think you're allowed to do whatever you want. Is there any update on how many teachers have,
Is that from Scott?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just starting in the middle to respond to him. But, if Scott, if you're referring to the COVID situation, we have not had any as of today quit, resign, or let go in terms of the situation. Obviously, we put out there back in the spring, the need for the district to reduce our staffing significantly. That was already a plan in terms of just, planning for our budget and our deficit and just our declining enrollment, but also just planning for the budgetary, struggles I think we're still going to have with the upcoming fiscal year. We're still expecting some significant cuts. And so that's what, that's all we've done up to this point. None of it feels good, and we may have to adjust to it. I'm hoping our enrollment and our community will be supportive and keep their kids in Pinckney Community Schools, not only now, but for the foreseeable future. And, and we can look at rebuilding and putting the pieces back. So right now, there's so much uncertainty with this current situation. So we're being very careful with staffing decisions. We may, the best thing we could do is have to add some teachers back, and I'm not going to say that may have to happen. We've been able to recall, I think, 3 teachers so far back in June. And like I said, if we continue to get the strong support from our community, and they believe in us and what we're doing, and how we're doing it, that we can focus on growing and not the reverse, and unfortunately what we've had to contend with.
New question just popped in. Classes start in Howell in 2 weeks, and this person has a student attending one of the CTE classes that starts there. So how did they deal with that, being as Pinckney doesn't start until the 8th?
Yep, and Lisa, yeah, they start the 19th, actually less than 2 weeks now. So they start the 19th, and this is a conversation we've had at the county level. And CTE is tricky because we don't have a common calendar in the county, and I think that's something we're working towards. But we all have individual communities and different needs and desires, and so it's a little more challenging. But I have a meeting tomorrow. Every Tuesday connect with the countywide superintendent. So this is on my list to get some clarity. For my, what I would like to see is if, those students in those classes, I would encourage them to start attending on the 19th to go to Howell. Not wait to the 8th. They don't have to wait to the 8th. And so they can start with those CT. He's in manufacturing class or maybe culinary arts there in Howell. I would not, wait for 2 weeks to start that. I would, I would get engaged with those programs as soon as they can. Those students are already providing their own transportation to get to those courses, so I assume that's still the case for them. It's a 2-hour block, so they can start their the education with those classes immediately.
There was a question about having updated info on the websites for the schools, and I will tell you, we're going to do our best to get as much info as we can out there. And it's Rick had a conversation with me earlier today saying it's hard to keep up with all the info that's coming in and bombarding us. And so we recognize you're struggling with that as parents as well. So we want to do what we can to get that updated as much as possible. So it's something I'm making a note of so I can talk to the principals to make sure they have the resources they need to put that up on the website.
Mm-hmm. And the principals are going to be pushing down more and more specific building level information. They're going to be putting videos together to show parents really what their buildings look like. That's important to know. We've talked about orientation sessions. And I know some parents are like, well, how come we're not having like in-person orientation sessions? And the reason being for that is because we can't control who's coming in from the outside. Parents, family members, siblings. And I think that just increased the risk. And when school starts, it's our students, you're screening them at home. And then when school starts, we have, full control over the environment. And so, so for the time being, we're going to have to do a lot of things, virtually. We know it's not the best, but it'll help us get started. And our teachers understand too, the first week of school, we're going to have to just do a lot of transitioning. Our kids haven't been here since March, and a lot of them are in brand new school. But we're going to have to treat those opening days as just like transitions, just welcome to the school. This is where things are at. This is how we have to move. This is how we have to operate. These are the expectations at the school. So, I can honestly say the first week of school, there's probably not going to be a lot of intense teaching and learning happening. And that's say there's not going to be some, but our job is to acclimate our students to a whole new environment, not just a new school, but a way of learning, a way of, moving around, a way of, being conscious of our space and just all the things that we have to be conscious of. And so that's going to take some time, but once we get that through, and we'll get down to business, in a way that we need to in terms of teaching and learning. But that first week is going to be different than any week that we've had to experience. Questions or?
Yeah, I was just clarify. I got thrown by one of the words. Okay, if things progress to phase 5, the virtual students will have the opportunity to come back at quarter or semester end. And you've said semester end.
Well, we talked about that if we move to phase 5, that what would happen is we would then open up a window of time, and we are going to use common sense. We want our kids back in school. We really do. And we certainly appreciate the families who are worried about their kids' safety. I mean, this is why our parents have a choice, is we wanted to answer to our community and let them know that we want our kids back in school. And so if you feel comfortable with all of the safety protocols that we have in place, we're happy to have your children back in school. If you don't feel comfortable, but if we move to phase 5, we certainly will open up that where students can come back earlier. We want to use common sense. We want to make sure that if, your child is ready to go back to school, if you feel comfortable, come back to school, that our doors are open for you.
just clarifying, I think a lot of these are comments at this point.
Right.
So.
And Sheila, I mean, Sheila, expresses the need for parents to know what the building will look like. And I know it's really hard because parents want to know every detail, which is, I've got 3 kids and I get that. But you have to understand that this is something that it's not all said and done. I mean, there's a lot of learning that we're all doing, for what, we get information that we think is true one day and then the next week it changes. And so there's, we're going to have to ask for some trust, and we're going to try to share as much information as we can. But our principals right now are trying to, reorganize the entire building while trying to reorganize classes and the learning model as well. And so I'll be honest with you, it's going to be really difficult to, show what exactly the building and everything's going to look like now. And that's why we had to build in a couple extra weeks, because it just takes a lot of time. There's still a lot of other things that we were responsible for. So this, that's the hard part, is just balancing all this on top of just the general needs that we have in getting the school year started. So, I hear you, Sheila, that we wish we could say, hey, this is exactly what everything's going to look like. But, we're working through the process, and, working with our staff and then trying to figure out, and we're creative. We're trying to brainstorm all different ways of what this could look like, from furniture to traffic patterns to we're getting signs put in place. And so not everything's in place right now. And that's the work that we're doing right now. So just be patient, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll be able to provide that information, but we will not be able to do it by this 14th of Friday to help you make a choice on the virtual learning.
I'm not seeing any more questions.
Well, I think we're approaching 9 o'clock, so it's a 2-hour time limit. We see our audience participants is starting to dwindle, but if your question didn't get answered, you have full access to us, whether it's Ms. Keeler, myself, even Michael. He'll be more than happy to answer any questions. And so, we'll answer your questions, because then you may sleep tonight and then wake up tomorrow with some additional thoughts. Continuing to let us know. We're going to be back here at 1 o'clock tomorrow. If you have time, you're more than welcome to jump back on for that as well. So after this processes tomorrow morning, I'll get this to Michael, and we'll get up to YouTube as quick as we can. We'll share that out. But on behalf of Basha and Michael, we just thank you so much for devoting 2 hours of your time this evening, helping us actually think through. This is really beneficial for us, because it helps us really think through our plan over and over, and a lot of great questions. Appreciate the very kind comments and support that many of you demonstrated in the chat as well. So we look forward to continue working down this path, working with you. And like I said, I'm confident that Painting Community Schools is going to shine, and our staff, and we're going to provide a great opportunity to get through this very challenging time. So thank you. And any last comments, Basha or Michael?
I just really appreciate this community, and just our hard work that went in with our families, feedback, our teachers, our staff, our administrative team. It's been a very collaborative process again, and I just feel very proud of all the work that we've done, and it really wouldn't be possible with all of our community members. So just seeing all of you here has been really just helpful and informative to help us think about some things as well. So thank you so much.
Agreed. Amen.
Thank you. Good night, and I'm sure we'll see and talk to many of you very soon. So thank you once again.